What up, y'all? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic. But before we jump into that, I just want to say happy Valentine's Day for all of y'all who celebrated it. If you have a loved one out there, make sure you hold them close. And hopefully you guys had an amazing Valentine's Day to enjoy each other company. If you know anything about me, I love love. So anytime I see it on display, all the pictures I saw on Instagram and X and Twitter and all that, it's just really nice to see like some of y'all still believe in love. It kind of gives me hope, right? So anyway, happy Valentine's Day for all those who celebrate it. Hopefully you guys have many more and you guys have a very strong relationship and you keep the ones that you love close to you. That's always important. All right, so if you can tell by the title of the video, we're doing kind of like a response video to a counterpoint discussion that was had a couple days ago. So the video title was single men versus single women and who has it harder. So I thought the video in particular, the topic itself was very interesting. So I kind of wanted to kind of get on here and give my 2 cents on each of the prompts that they had. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So if you're not familiar with kind of like this video format, a counterpoint, and I believe Jubilee, they also had like a they kind of made this style of video kind of popular. I forgot the name of their series, but after they done that, I've seen like a lot of other channels kind of replicate that same format. But essentially what these channels do, they bring in people from differing opinions. So you'll have like, for example, liberals versus Republicans or conservatives, or you'll have like pro-life versus pro-choice, or you'll have, in this case, single men versus single women, or Gen Z versus boomers, pretty much opposites. And they bring these people together to, have pretty interesting conversations and discourse. So of course, this is my first time doing one of these like kind of response videos, but I did feel like since we are in the midst of Valentine's Day and relationships are always a hot topic, you could say it's an evergreen topic at this point, I figured I'd just kind of jump on and give my 2 cents on the prompts that were displayed in this video. Of course, I'm going to leave the actual original video down in the description down below, so anybody who's interested, you guys can go and watch the video and give your comments on it and come back to this video and whatnot, however you want to do it. But without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so prompt number 1, nice guys finish last. So this is always a very interesting topic when it comes to men-women relationships. I'm going to give my 2 cents on that. And before I jump into this, let me just kind of give you guys my background. So I'm a millennial, born in 1992. That makes me 33 years old at the time of this recording, right? So I've dated long enough. I've been dating ever since I was a teenager, 15, 16, all the way up to now. I'm currently single, been single for about 6 years now. So I've definitely been in the game and kind of, seeing how everything kind of changed from the time I was, let's say 16, 17, 18 to now. So I think I can offer an interesting perspective as somebody who's kind of seen the transition of how dating was back then versus now. So yeah, but let's get on with the prompt. Do nice guys finish last? All right, so let me just say this. I'm not a red pill channel, so I'm not gonna be like bashing, like heavily bashing women, or taking the guy's side on everything and taking the women's side. I'm pretty neutral when it comes to this. I'm gonna try to be as fair as possible, but I am a guy, so I'm gonna give you a guy's perspective. So do nice guys finish last? I would say it depends on what you mean by it, but generally speaking, based on what I've observed coming up and now, I would say, yeah. Now, granted, the whole nice guy thing, it really depends on what you consider what a nice guy is, because that term gets thrown around so loosely now. Like, what you may consider nice, somebody else may consider as disingenuous. So I always say what one person considers a good thing, it doesn't always translate to somebody else, right? So let's just say to one woman, you may be considered the best thing on earth. To another woman, you may be considered annoying. So the whole good guy and good woman thing is highly subjective. The only thing I recommend people do is just be yourself. Do what you feel is right by the person. Be you. Don't try to change yourself because of somebody. Like, just be yourself. And the people who rock with you, they're going to rock with you. The people who don't, they don't. And that's just the way that I approach it. So anyway, but coming up, I will say one of the things that I always know, and I've heard this ever since I was a kid, is that when it comes to women, you don't necessarily, this is going to sound so crazy, but you don't necessarily listen to what they say, you watch what they respond to. And coming up, I found that to be particularly true. To this day, I have female friends who would get on Instagram and get on these public forums and discussions and say, oh, I want a guy that's this, all these positive or quote unquote positive traits. But the men that they're hyper attracted to, or the men that they tend to go after, are none of those things. If you ask me, a lot of these guys are toxic. Like, these guys are, you know, they party all the time. They're emotionally unavailable. They're just not the type of men you would associate with the good moniker, so say. But what I also notice about the men that they go for, these guys have a bit of an edge to them. You know, these guys are womanizers, or they have a certain aesthetic to them. You know, the muscles, the tattoos, but these guys have a certain look to them. They have a certain kind of edge to them. So what I've noticed is that, you know, a woman will say, yeah, I want a guy that has this, and this. But when you actually put that guy in front of them, they tend to not be attracted to him. Like, they will go out of their way for a certain archetype versus what they say that they want. So from my experience, the nice guy does typically finish last. I just remember, like, even me being back like in high school or middle school, like, I remember being very attracted to certain women. And, you know, me coming up, I was a bit of a nerd. Like, I'm not even gonna hold you. Like, I wasn't really into the street shit. I wasn't really like doing any sort of like edgy, none of that. Even though I was cool with everybody, I was cool with the jocks, I was cool with the thugs, I was cool with the white guy, I was cool with everybody, right? But for me personally, I was a bit of a square. Like, I would do my homework, watch anime, video games. That was my thing. But I noticed the difference in just the amount of women I would attract naturally versus some guys I knew was running the streets. They always had like a plethora of women. Like, they just never had a shortage of women, and women were attracted to this. So you could say it's social conditioning. You know, I know in the hip hop and the black community, we kind of pedestalize degenerate behavior, which is a whole nother different video. I'm not going to get into that on this video, but I definitely can say I've seen it even in my own family, like some of the men that my aunts were attracted to. I'm just like, really? Like, I would think, like, you know, if you say you want a good man, you would go for like the kind of like the engineer, like kind of guy who got themselves together, but they usually go for the guy that has a bit of edge to him. So, but it also can also mean that, and I've also seen this too, where when women, when they're younger, let's just say 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, they tend to go for the guy that's exciting, right? Because you're young, you don't know any better. You know, you think excitement, blah, blah, blah. You associate that with, I don't know. But then when they get older, let's say like 30, then they want to kind of settle for the guy that has his stuff together. But they're still attracted to it's a wild thing. But to answer the question, I do think it is true. It does hold some truth. And the same thing goes for men. Like, I think men, we're also attracted to women who are not the best for us either. But I think the difference is that we can kind of have that discernment saying, hey, this girl is only good for, you know, partying and casual situations versus trying to get in a relationship. So I think that's kind of the difference between men and women. Like, we know who's wifey material, who's not. I think a lot of times women try to take these guys and try to like change them, you know, whatever. So, but to answer the prompt, do nice guys finish last? In most cases, yeah. And it really just kind of boils down to, what do women actually respond to? You know, they can say they want a certain type of guy, but in real life, who are they gravitating towards? So, yeah. All right, prompt number 2. A man's body count means less than a woman's body count, or a woman's body count means more than a guy's body count. All right, so I made a video on body count a couple months back. If you go to my channel, you'll see it there. When it comes to body count, you know, it's always a debate. Does it matter? Does it not? And I told somebody this the other day. If body count did not matter, we wouldn't constantly have a debate about it. So at the end of the day, body count matters for both genders involved. However, I do think men and women view it differently. Like, I feel like in a lot of cases, and I've noticed this too, women tend to go for the guy that, or are attracted to the guy that has a lot of options. You know, if a guy, because again, in order to attract a lot of women, typically the guy has to have some desirable trait, whether it's physicality, whether it's what he can provide, or, you know, if he has motion or social status. Typically, women are attracted to that. So naturally, he's going to have a lot of options. And I just think women, I even heard women say this, like, I'm not trying to be your first, but I'm trying to be your last, right? So I just think the way that women look at that is different from men, opposed to men. Men are typically attracted to purity. You know, men don't like to compete with other men when it comes to things like that. So, you know, if you have a woman who's been with, let's just say 10, 15, 20 guys, that's 10, 15, 20 guys that a guy has to retroactively compete with. And a lot of guys just don't like the idea of that. That's really what it boils down to. Guys do not like being compared or having to compete with a multitude of guys, right? But I also think it's a little bit deeper than that too, because when you look at the level of investment in a relationship, guys are the one who usually have to use their resources to court a woman. So when you find out that there's a guy out there who didn't have to do any of that, but still got pretty much favorable results, guys feel some type of way about that. Like if, like let's just say, like if you meet a girl and you're kicking it off and you're spending all your time and resources and doing nice dates and gifts and this and that, but then you find out that, hey, she had a one night stand or she had a situation with a guy who did none of that, but she's still giving him the best of her. Like, to a guy, we look at that like yo, that's crazy. So I think it's a multitude of things. I think the level of investment that most guys put into women trying to court them is one thing. So I think that's why women are not so heavily invested into a body count versus men. But I think men look at that like, yo, if I'm going to do all this, why should I do this when there's a guy out there who does less and gets more? You know what I'm saying? So I think, but to answer the prompt, I think body count matters for both sides. I think sex should be a sacred thing between people in relationships. And I know society, we hyper casualize, especially my generation. Like, come on, I came up on Pretty Ricky and R. Kelly, so I already know. But I think with the casualization of sex, it's all over the media, whether it's television shows, books, movies, sex is everywhere. But I just think with the casualization of it, it just definitely, sex is, people just over casualize it. So, but I do think body count matters for both parties, individuals. I think high body counts are just, it's not a good thing long term. I know everybody wants to go out, have their fun and sexual liberation, be free, do you, and all that. But I just think it's a good thing. So, yeah. All right. And the final prompt, dating apps are not for dating. And actually, I agree with that prompt because here's the thing. I understand that the way that people interact now is different versus when I was coming up. When I was coming up, I'm going to sound like such an old man, but when I was coming up, you used to have to, in order to meet girls or women, you had to be on a social scene of some sort. And I'm talking about like when I was like 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Instagram and Tinder and all that didn't really come out until I was about 22, 23-ish, right? So I had a good little run to where I wasn't influenced by social media when it came to dating or whatever. Anyway, when I was coming up, in order for you to meet women, you had to go out on a social scene. Like, you had to go to clubs, you had to go to bars, you had to go to lounges, you had to go to concerts, you had to go to events. This is pre-Instagram. So, and mind you, this was a better time. Like, back then, there wasn't this hyper emphasis on like bottle service. It wasn't like it is now. Like I said, go watch my Clubbing is Dead video. You'll see what I mean by that. But back then, I felt like connecting with somebody was a lot more genuine because we didn't have all these external forces like social media influencing how we talk to each other. Even now to this day, I much rather prefer to go out to an event and meet somebody on neutral ground, whether it's a concert or a bar or something like that. I can't really do the dating apps. Like, I've tried it, but to me, it's just too impersonable. Here's the thing with dating apps. When you gamify the experience, if you don't know what I mean by gamify it, it's based on swipes. And I'm pretty sure Tinder, Hinge, all these places, they've done their research about how to keep you on the screen longer. And I put it like this: if dating apps were meant for you, if dating apps were meant for you to find your match, they would have a business model. The business model is to keep you single, right? So you continue to pay for the Tinder Gold subscriptions. You can continue to pay for X, Y, and Z. I don't care what they tell you in their marketing, but that is their business model. If it was designed for you to find your partner, then why are their subscriptions so expensive? It's not designed for it. And I get it. People meet on Instagram, people meet on Tinder and Hinge and all that, but I truly believe the original intent, when I look back at the original intent of Tinder, it was a hookup app. And I still think that's in this DNA. Also, I think as humans, we're not wired to meet and interact the way these apps try to encourage us to. We're not meant to have this many options at the tip of our fingertips. You know, back in the day, you were kind of limited to your geographical location. Now with Instagram and Tinder and all that, you would talk to somebody in Miami and you live in New York. You know what I'm saying? So I just think the amount of options and how we gamify the social interaction experience has just made it so much harder, because everybody has the false illusion of choice. You know, if one person doesn't respond on time, you have 50 other people that you can talk to. You know what I'm saying? So it's a sad scenario, and I don't think dating apps are the ideal way of meeting people. Now, of course, you're gonna have your outliers. You know, a broken clock is right twice a day. You're gonna have your outliers, but for the most part, I think people will have more success if they just got back to the basics of just social interaction in person, whether that's at an event, like I said, a concert, or if you're not into that, maybe like a library or like a bar or a lounge or even coffee shops. I met women in coffee shops. Like I'm sitting there just, you know, doing my thing, and, you know, a girl next to me will kind of strike up a conversation about something. So, you know, and I met women that way. So I always encourage young men to like get off of this and go outside. Just go outside. You know, go interact with people. Go learn how to talk to people, and trust me, you'll get way further that way. And you'll stand out, because most people are socially awkward. So if you have that confidence when you go out, people are going to naturally gravitate to you. All right. All right. Well, that's all I got. I know I've been kind of rambling for a bit. You know, when I kind of get on the roll, I just can't stop. But I'm not going to hold you guys too long. I just want to come on and make this quick video really quick. Let me know what you think. If you watched the original video, drop a comment down below. If you want to go ahead and give your 2 cents on anything that I said, drop a comment down below. I would love to have a conversation with you guys. But with that being said, again, happy Valentine's Day. Heart to all y'all, and thank y'all for watching. I'll see y'all next time. All right, peace.